Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. A couple years ago, I took a job with a towing company. It's pretty much all I know besides doing some basic auto body work, which was messing with my lungs. The pay was decent enough, but we had to share trucks, and the boss, Mike, thought he knew best where we needed to park our asses to get the juiciest calls. That's important for later. After several months, I realized I wasn't pulling in what I should be. So one evening, while stuck in some strip mall lot, I looked into the labor laws for employees like me. Mike was kind of a prick, and the trucks had trackers, so he'd ride our asses if we idled too long with the climate control on. Dude was obsessed with squeezing every mile out of us. Well, turns out if he made us sit in certain spots he picked, we were considered engaged to wait under the law. That meant he owed us an hourly wage, not just commission. But if we could freely cruise for calls, we were waiting to be engaged. No hourly pay required. I kept that tidbit to myself, but started logging my hours just in case. Another month crawls by, and Mike starts busting my chops over every little thing. Stupid crap like leaving an empty Coke can in the cup holder. He went nuclear over that one day, screaming his head off. By then, I'd lined up a new gig and was done with his nonsense, so I decided to pull the trigger. I called him up, said we needed to discuss my final pay and benefits. As soon as I was in his office, I laid out the state law, showed my hours logged waiting at his chosen spots, and told him he owed me hourly wages for that time. The prick said no way, that wasn't our deal when I signed on. I didn't argue. Just took my last check and bounced. The next Monday, I ratted him out to the state labor board and broke down the whole scam. Those guys were real interested after I laid it all out. Next thing I know, they're at the tow yard reviewing Mike's employment files and talking to the other drivers. When they slapped him with the back pay he owed everyone, it tanked his whole operation. Dude had to sell his trucks, his base boat, the yard, everything. He went belly up. I never got paid my full share, just a chunk of it. But watching that cheap bastard's kingdom crumble after I caught him trying to shortchange me, man, those were some satisfying fireworks to see. The next one is an entitled people story. My wife and I moved into our new home about a year ago. It's a nice 2-story house with a big backyard, perfect for our 2 young kids to play in. The neighborhood seemed really friendly at first. All the neighbors came by to introduce themselves and welcome us. Well, all except one lady who lived in the house behind ours. We tried knocking on her door a few times to say hello, but she never answered. We just figured maybe she was busy or worked odd hours. No big deal. Life went on as normal with the kids playing in the backyard every day. That's when the nightmare neighbor revealed herself. One Saturday morning, my wife and I were sitting on the back porch while the kids played. They were maybe being a little louder than usual, laughing and shouting as they chased each other around. Suddenly, we hear someone yell from over the fence, "Hey, keep it down over there!" I walked over to the fence, and that's when I saw her. The neighbor who never introduced herself. She was glaring at me with a scornful look on her face. "Sorry, we didn't mean to disturb you," I said politely. "The kids are just playing and got a little carried away." "Well, I don't want to hear them, so keep them quiet," she snapped. Taken aback by her rude tone, I just nodded and walked away. I told the kids to try to keep it down a bit and didn't think much else of it. Kids will be kids after all. But that wasn't the last we heard from her. Over the next few weeks, anytime the kids were in the backyard, she would yell over the fence for them to be quiet. Even if they were just having a normal conversation, she acted like they were screaming at the top of their lungs. One day, I was grilling some burgers for dinner while the kids played. I heard the familiar shout of, "Be quiet," and I'd had enough. I walked over to the fence and said, "Look, I'm sorry if they're bothering you occasionally, but they're just kids playing in our own backyard. I don't think it's fair for you to demand they be silent all the time." "I don't care," she yelled. "I have a right to peace and quiet in my own home. Those brats of yours need to shut up or go somewhere else." Now I was really getting angry. "How dare you call my children brats? They have every right to play and enjoy our backyard. If you have such a big problem with normal kid noise, then maybe you're the one with the issue." She flipped me off and stormed into her house. Real nice lady. From then on, we just ignored her constant complaining and let the kids play. We weren't going to let our neighbor dictate what happens in our own yard. Things escalated when she started calling the police with noise complaints anytime the kids were outside. The cops would show up, see the kids just running around, and politely explain to the lady that nothing inappropriate was happening. After weeks of wasting the cops' time, they finally told her that if she kept calling with no real issues to report, she could be charged with a misdemeanor. That finally put an end to the barrage of noise complaints, or so we thought. One evening, right around the kids' bedtime, the doorbell rings. It's 2 police officers. "We received a report of domestic dispute coming from your home," one officer said. Your neighbor said you were screaming at your wife and kids and she was concerned for their safety. My wife and I looked at each other in shock. I have no idea what she's talking about, I said. We were just getting the kids ready for bed. There's been no fighting at all. The officers could see there was clearly no issue. I think your neighbor may have fabricated the story, the cop said. We'll have a chat with her about misusing cop. Turns out she had called cop and made up a complete lie just to get us in trouble as retaliation for letting our kids play. Unbelievable. The next day, my wife and I discussed filing for a restraining order against the deranged neighbor, but before we could even look into it, we heard sirens blaring right outside our house. We looked out the window to see 2 police cars pull up. 4 officers approached our neighbor's house with guns drawn. She was being arrested. Later, we found out what happened. After the fabricated domestic dispute incident, the cops warned her to stop misusing cop or she could face charges. But she didn't listen. She continued to make up crazy complaints to the emergency line about us and other neighbors. The final straw was when she claimed I came onto her property and threatened her with a baseball bat. The police saw right through her lies and decided enough was enough. She was arrested and charged with multiple counts of misusing cop, falsifying police reports, and harassment. Justice served. With her facing serious legal consequences, we were finally free to let our kids play in peace. We decided to build an even bigger play set in the backyard just to drive her nuts if she's ever allowed back. The lesson here is, just leave people alone to live their lives, especially when kids just want to play in their own backyard. Karma comes for Karens who can't stop the entitlement and harassment. We couldn't be happier to finally be rid of the neighbor from hell. The next one is a petty revenge story. I've given up and am embracing the obnoxiousness of my name and meme, but declaring myself to be a little Karen, an entirely different species. LOL. I was in my hometown this weekend and drove past the branch library where I misspent so much of my youth. Reminded me of this story. I very rarely had to go downtown to the mothership library. 5 stories, almost a city block. But that day, I was in the main reading room doing research. As usual, the room had quite a few homeless people, all mostly keeping to themselves and enjoying the air conditioning. It was brutally hot that day. There were several rows of rectangular tables, each with 6 chairs, giving folks plenty of room to spread out. Suddenly I hear this plop. An armload of magazines slams down on the table across from me. Karen sits down and only then asks if she can share the table because she doesn't want to sit near homeless people. I don't recall the exact words, but she was not trying to be tactful at all, nor quiet. Several occupied tables were in earshot. She sits there for about 25 minutes and never shuts up. She has the magazines, cooking magazines, strewn all over the table. She wants to talk about recipes. She wants to profess her love for some grocery store she used to visit back home that makes Publix look like crap. She wants to talk about what a nasty city this is. And she really wants to talk about how the library is being ruined by vagrants and bums and they should not be allowed inside. I was doing my best to just and ah instead of actually answering her, hoping she would STFU. My simmering dislike of her went up to boiling hatred when she started tearing recipes out of the magazines. I finally looked her right in the eye and told her to stop it. She started to sputter and I said, "Geez, just take pictures with your phone." She vibrates in place for about 20 seconds and then decides my behavior is too offensive to endure, so she slams her stuff together, leaving the half-destroyed magazines in a messy pile, and does the flounce and bounce. As she's walking away, I see a notebook she left on the table. I think about it for a minute, then pick it up, run after her, and give it to her. Very saccharine sweet. "You forgot this!" And she had to pretend to be thankful. Pretty lame, right? But wait. What you need to know about this library was that parking was in a giant garage about a block and a half away, and library patrons could park there for 3 hours free with a validation slip from the library. You handed them your ticket at the reference desk and they'd staple the slip to it. No slip? You paid the hourly rate indicated by your time punch ticket. It was like $2.50 an hour. No ticket? You paid the daily rate, which at that time was about $20. When I picked Karen's notebook up, I could see the little ticket sticking out of the top with the slip stapled to it. When I handed Karen her notebook, well, golly gosh, where did that ticket go? Shame. Hope you had a 20 in that giant purse, Karen. The next one is a malicious compliance story. Circa 2005, I switched jobs. The new job came with an awesome perk. 3 months working in Spain, I lived back then in Argentina, all expenses paid, earning my salary plus an extremely generous per diem. For me, it was awesome. It meant that I would get pretty much the salary of a year in 3 months, plus the opportunity to visit Europe and travel for the first time. The caveat was that the project was a nightmare. The consulting company that hired me had won a really big bank project and overpromised, We had to finish the project in a really impossible time frame. That's why I was going there. It was kind of an all-hands-on-deck situation. When I arrived there, working hours were ridiculous. 9 a.m. was the starting time, and we rarely left before 11 p.m., sometimes even being there till 1 or 2 in the morning. I had no problem with that. I was living in a hotel. The only people I knew in the city were in the project as well, so we bonded over the situation. My colleagues were also really supportive. They made a point that I wasn't going to work on weekend and told me that we work our asses off Monday to Thursday, but on Friday afternoon you're going straight to the airport. You have to take on the opportunity to get to know Europe. We'll get by. The problem, as usual in this situation, was the project manager. We used to call him Sauron. He was a manager that took pride in saying, I started working in this company. I met my wife because of this company. I got married because of this company. I got divorced because of this company. I live because of this company. He was middle management, so yeah, since hours were really long and pretty much everyone was exhausted from the night before, the tech team, minus Sauron, used to stroll down to a cafe down the street at 9:15 a.m. and have a hearty breakfast while we planned the day ahead. Team leaders were included, and it was kind of an impromptu and informal scrum meeting we held. One day, Sauron and I had a meeting with the client in the office. While I was there, client said to Sauron, BTW, I'm gonna need this and that for this afternoon. And Sauron said, okay, I'll go down to the bullpen and ask someone for that. Be right back, just keep on with the meeting and I'll join when I get back. But he never came back. The meeting finished with me and the client, and Sauron never came back. After the client left, 2 hours later, I went down and found that nobody was in the bullpen. Not a single soul. Not Sauron, nor the team. And then I heard screaming from one of the meeting rooms. I opened the door and found the whole team shouting at Sauron and Sauron shouting back. Sauron was furious because the team was at the cafe. The team was furious because he had no right to be angry about that since everybody worked an insane amount of overtime with no complaints. And Sauron said, I don't ducking care. You're hired to start your work at 9 a.m. You have to be here at your desks at that time. That's what we're paying you bums for. One of the team leaders, seeing that this was going nowhere, said okay and ended the meeting. Sauron pretty much disappeared all day having meetings and such. And then, at 7 p.m., we all left. Since Sauron asked us to work the hours they were paying us to work, we finished the shift and left, and we did that the next day. And the next one as well. We did it for a whole week. Sauron missed a couple of milestones and got an earful by the client and his bosses. Sauron realized his screw-up. He became docile and never complained about anything else. Not the cafe meetings, and not even about the seldom longer than usual lunch. We did work a lot more hours than what he was paying us for, but the environment became more relaxed, and Sauron made a point of trying to be at the bullpen the shortest time possible. The next one is an entitled People's Story. Hello, I remembered this gem from a few years ago and think this will be perfect for this channel. Also, apologies for this being so long. So much happened here that I just remembered. Also, I'm a junior in high school currently on summer break, about to be a senior. This happened back in 2019 when I was in 6th grade summer break, going on to 7th grade. On that day, I was invited to a pool party for my dad's friend's daughter returning from vacation in Mexico with her grandmother. We'll call the daughter ED, entitled Daughter. Well, ED was just returning and wanted to go swimming. She just got a pool built in her backyard that looked identical to mine, just hers had a hot tub, ours did not. I expected to just go to EM house, entitled Mom, because she lived next door. Turns out the party wasn't at her house. I assumed this meant we would be going to a friend's house in the neighborhood, but no. We all hopped into the car to head to the public pool. I was cool with it. Thankfully, my mom gave me money for food just in case the pool party wasn't at somebody's house. We get to the pool just for EM to expect us to pay for our own bracelets. I'm cool with it due to having my own money, but I was confused. I assumed since she invited us out, she was paying for us. I pay for my ticket, but I turn to see my friends. I'll call them Esmeralda and Ashley. Esmeralda is the younger one of the sisters, close to ED age, and the older sister Ashley is about my age. They both didn't bring any money because we thought we were swimming at somebody's house and not a public pool. EM started scolding them and paid mumbling about how their mom owes them now. Isabella, the youngest there, paid for herself because her family had gave her money. Lastly, ED, older cousin by 3 years, was paid for only because he's family and his mom was sending money to his aunt when he stayed there. So we finally get in and I'm really hungry and decided I'm going to eat first because I skipped breakfast, I think. I got a lot of food due to my mom giving me $20. From what I remember, I got a hot dog, some chips, ice cream, and slushie. I understand how crazy it was that I ate that, but I had some issues at the time at home. To sum it, because I don't feel like getting too into it, basically, to sum it up, I ate whatever I wanted when I wasn't home because my family was controlling over food. I also had health issues that made me eat more plus medication. Anyways, EM looked at me in disgust and said, "You shouldn't eat all that," because she wandered off. I knew what she was trying to say, but she remembered that my dad is friends with her fiancé, and if she said what she was planning to say, it can cause issues. So she remembered something that she thought would work. She said, "Your mom wouldn't be okay with you eating all that," I responded, but I don't recall what it was that I told her. I got into the pool after eating and played in the water for a bit. Every time I lightly splashed my friend Ashley, or EDEM would get mad and yell at me and Ashley because we were the oldest and should act our age. We were also then expected to watch the little kids and follow them around. Me and Ashley didn't want to, but did so because it got embarrassing being stared at by everyone when EM would yell at us. Me and Ashley barely got to do what we wanted in the pool. Mind you, me and Ashley are in 6th and 7th grade watching a 4th grader, 3rd grader, and a 2nd grader, instead of enjoying the pool. If me and Ashley knew we were going to be used as unpaid babysitters, we would have stayed home and swam at my house. The kids got out of the pool because they got hungry, so we followed. I also wanted a popsicle because it hit 103 degree at that time. When we first got to the pool, it was about 95 degree. EM side-eyed me and said, "You don't need any more food because I ate 4 hours ago." We were at this pool for about 9 hours in total. I said I know, but I just want a popsicle. So she allowed me to take my coin purse back and buy one. At first she said I have to give the other kids the rest of my money so they can eat. I lied and said popsicles were $2 and I only have 2 left. EM got upset and scolded me, saying I shouldn't have gotten all that food and now the other wouldn't get to eat. I brought my own money, and so did Isabella. EM pulled out $5 and told them to share, but when Isabella refused the money, saying she had her own, EM asked how much she had, and she said she had $30 or $40, but her mom said it's only for her, and to return the rest to her mom. EM took back her $5 and said Isabella has to pay for all the kids because she has the most money and her mom would be fine with it. Also, EM never paid back Isabella's mom. The kids cost her $30. I got a popsicle and I bought the last Sour Patch Kids, which was for my older brother because he was super nice to me that week. I enjoyed 2 popsicles and placed the candy in my bag secretly because I didn't want to let the other kids see the candy. EM shamed Jack, Isabella, ED, and Esmeralda for what they got. I shared with Ashley some of my food because we were super close. EM was mad that I didn't share with her daughter ED. We went swimming again afterwards and came back a few hours later to EM complaining about random stuff, then wanting to leave, so we packed up our stuff and Ashley was complaining about hunger too, me quietly too, not be scolded by EM for not making Isabella pay for her meal. So I gave her a few Sour Patch Kids because I accidentally opened the box when I grabbed my clothes. I put the box back quietly, and then I turned to EM, who was shaming me for buying candy and not sharing with the other kids. She then says, "OP, you need to share with the other kids because you ate enough for today." When the other kids heard I had candy, they all ran up begging for candy. When I tried to explain to EM the candy is mainly for my brother, she accused me of lying and said I had to share. The kids ran to my bag and excited for candy, and EM took the candy from my bag and shared it between all the kids. After give the kids handfuls of candy, she gave me and Ashley 3 pieces each for being greedy. The only thing that kept me looking forward to this day was going to pick up ice cream at an ice cream shop. As soon as we got close though, EM said we don't deserve ice cream and said we will get some at her house. As soon as we get there, we got mini Otter Pops. Ashley declined because she wanted ice cream and went home to get some from her house. Everyone else, shockingly enough, including me, got an Otter Pop. Only half though, because we didn't deserve a full Otter Pop. It was also the mini Otter Pops. I went home disappointed but didn't tell my parents for fear of getting in trouble for the food I ate. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.